Hello, hello. Right, I will start. Most of you, well, some of you might know me, most of you won't. So I will start a little bit of an introduction. My name's Helen Bailey, and I've been turning for 4 years now. If anybody's got any questions or don't understand me, apparently I've got a bit of an accent, so just pipe in. So I've been turning for about 4 years. And most of the time people ask me at work how I started turning. So I'm a bit of a daddy's girl, and my dad bought a lathe 4 years ago. I needed something for him for Christmas, so I went to Axminster Tools, which is really close to me, and I asked them for a Christmas present for my dad. So they gave me a pen mandrel. So I gave my dad the pen mandrel for Christmas. And then in January, he phoned us up. He says, Helen, he says, that pen mandrel you bought us, the local wood turning club I go to, he says, they're doing a demonstration. Do you want to come with us? I thought, brilliant. It's not something I was really interested in, but I thought I'll go with my dad and see what it's all about. And I fell in love with wood turning that night. So the demonstration was brilliant, and then the next day there was a demonstration on by a guy called Tony Wilson. I went to that and I loved it, and I came home and went to my dad's the next day on the Sunday, and I turned my very first wood turning. So I'll show you that quickly. And that was that one. That's my Tony Wilson post box. So that was the first thing I ever turned, and that's how I got into wood turning. As you can see, I also now work for Axminster Tools. I've worked for them for a year, and it's a fantastic job. So anyway, a little bit about me, and I'll show you my workshops. I'll just turn my camera around. As Pat said at the beginning, I have got 3 workshops. They're not all workshops, they're little log cabins, but they're in the garden. So we'll start with where I keep my timber. We'll pop over here. So I like to keep the timber all separate away from everything else. So we'll have a little baby cabin in here. And this is all where I keep the timber. So it's all nice and clean, and it's kept away from all my machinery and everything. I have got all my dry timber in here. It's mostly kiln dried, but I do have a wee little bit of wet timber I got given during the winter. It's not ideal keeping it indoors, but I didn't have anywhere at the time, so I've got it in here. We've got it all sticked to keep it apart, and we have got all the ends sealed. I use the PVA to seal all the ends. So hopefully in the summertime, we're going to get all of this timber out of here, all the wet timber out of here, and get a covered area behind one of my workshops in there, just to air dry it a lot better, and then keep the dry timber and the wet timber separate. So this is where I keep all my timber. And then we'll process the timber. I have the big workshop. So we'll pop in here. This one I use for processing. I have got pillar drills, I've got band saws, disc sander, table saw, all that kind of stuff in here. So I use this for processing wood, things like that, making other things, but I also use in here, I use it for finishing my projects, so for lacquering, things like that. If I'm working in the lathe workshop and it's all dusty, I can be in here, I can be lacquering bowls, I can use it for paint and things like that. So in here, I try to keep everything as clean as I can for safety and things. I keep all my tools and everything in here, and a little bit of dust extraction in the corner there, which I do double up and use in my lathe workshop as well. So we've got safety goggles, ear defenders and everything in here. So that's where we'll process timber.
Such a mess, Helen.
Sorry?
Such a mess.
It's really, really untidy. That's the way I like it. So this is my favourite place. This is my happy place. And this is where my lathe is. So it's a little bit of turn and then we'll have a look at that in a bit. But that's the important thing. That's my baby. Axminster 1628. Do all my sharpening on a Tormek. I have got a dry grinder hidden in the corner of the other workshop, so if I want to do any full reprofiling on tools, I use the dry grinder, but 99% of the time I use my Tormek. So I say I like to keep everything nice and tidy. I think it's safer that way, so I clean up after every time I turn or every time I'm working. Keep everything behind doors. I have all my finishing products in a cabinet behind doors so they don't get dusty. And I have just, during lockdown, I've built some drawers to try and keep everything away. So I've got all centres, I've got chucks and things, and it's all tucked away neatly so it stays nice and clean and in good working order. Extraction, like I said before, I have my camvac. I did actually buy a camvac last year for this workshop, but it's too big, so I keep it in the other workshop. I bring it through and I rig it up behind my lathe here for when I'm sanding and things. I also have, same as David, I have the Axminster powered respirator up there, which I use every time I turn. Put it on as soon as I start. Don't take it off till I've finished. Safety glasses, all that kind of thing. And having long hair, the most important thing is hair bubbles. Keeping your hair tied up, I believe. So all my tools are nice and handy at the back there. Hollowing tools and ball gougers, things like that. So that is my 3 tiny little workshops. Any questions?
Yeah, Helen.
Yeah.
Do you build all your workshops yourself?
Well, they were both flat packed, so myself and my dad, we put them together. Yeah, I started off with the little one, the wood store. That was the first one, and I did have my lathe in there. But then I got the big one, and then the third one was this one. So they've been jiggled about over time. But yeah, they're all put together. Me and my dad.
You kit them all out yourself, do you? All the shelving and all that?
Sorry?
You kit them out yourself, do you? All the shelving and all that? Do you do it all yourself?
I say most of it, my dad does come over and help. He helped with the initial build. But since then I've moved things, I've changed things around, and yeah, I do probably about 80% of it myself, yeah. Yeah.
That's great. It's really tidy, really, it's nice.
Yeah, I like it nice and tidy. I think the safety aspect when it's tidy, it's a lot safer. But I also find I come out here and if it's tidy, I can be more creative. I feel happier, calmer when it's tidy. And believe me, it does get a massive mess, obviously, when I'm turning. But at the end of the day, I always clean it down and tidy it. So when I come in the next time, it's done.
Yeah, great. Looks lovely.
Thank you. So, well, that's my workshop. Turning wise, I haven't got a lot here. But there's a few bits. I've got a few bits by, not many, but a few bits by other turners. And there's a few turners who have been really good to me. So one of the first professional demos after the Tony Wilson demo was a local one. I don't know if anybody will recognise anything like this, but Andrew Hall came and did a demo at Axminster before I worked there when I first started turning. And he turned a goblet, and all the way through he was joking about it being a gin goblet. So some of you guys know I like my gin. So Andrew turned a gin goblet, and then he turned a little hat to stop the wasps getting in. and he gifted me this at the end of the demo. So that was the first time I met Andrew, and since then I have done a few courses with him. I went and to his workshop and I did a hat course like David's hat, but mine's just a wee little one. I went and did a hat course with him and learned so much. I'd already started turning thin items when I went and did this, but I learned so much from Andrew doing the course in his workshop. And I always think, even if you think you know things, you're always going to pick new things up from other people. So I did that with Andrew, and then since then I also did the AWGB certificate with him. It's absolutely fabulous. He's a brilliant teacher, lovely guy, and hopefully a good friend now. So Andrew is one of the guys who has been a great influence on me. The next piece I have got is by Pat Carroll. Got a few pieces that Pat's give us, but this one is one of my favourites. So it's a wee little hollow foam. I'll turn that round there, and it's got a lovely little finial with a collar and a little splat on it there. So that's one of my most treasured possessions. I met Pat not long after I started turning, at the UKIS seminar, and since then he's helped us greatly with me turning. He's at the end of the phone every time I have a problem in the workshop. I ring him up or get him on Messenger and he helps us, and he's been really good with us. So I recently did some demos in the local area, and I lent him some tools, and he demoed his bowl, which again David's done one. So I did one inspired by Pat. So that is, I called it the Raggy Edge bowl, but it was done with the grinder, and a big grinder, and then the little Proxon grinder. So that's my little homage to Pat. And the last piece of someone else's work I've got is, let's pop that down, is, you probably all know her, Emma Cook, the tiny turner. Again, she came and did, I'd met her a few times, but she came and did a demo at our club, and she didn't finish the bauble that she did, but she pulled us aside at the end of the night and she gave me that as a gift, and it is the most beautiful little pink bauble. She knows pink's my favourite colour. Emma is, she's such an inspiration. She's obviously a female demonstrator, female wood turner, which there's not many of us around. I just think she's really good at what she does. She's brilliant, she's confident, and again, she's a massive inspiration. So she's been making resin blanks recently. So I've got one of Emma's blanks, and I made a sphere out of that one. So that's lovely, lovely Emma. So they're three of the turners I know that have really influenced my turning. So some of the things I do, I like to do thin wall turning. So this is the second piece of piercing work I did. It's about 2 years ago, I think I did this one now. So it's been around for a little while. It's turned down to 2 mil. It's a little bit of it's spalted sycamore. It's turned down to 2 mil, and it was pierced. This one was pierced using a Dremel and some side cutting bits. The piercing came about, I was looking on the internet and I saw Margaret Garrard, Richard Kennedy, fantastic, and Joey Richardson, and just absolutely fell in love with them. And I thought, I'm never going to be able to turn something that thin, but I ended up turning a bowl, turning it thin, and then I thought, I'm never going to be able to pierce it, but sat for about, I think it was about 30 hours from turning to finishing in this one. And that's what came out of it. Really enjoyed it. So that was the second PS ball. The first one I did is, it's in a box in someone's house at the minute from the AWGB seminar. So that should be getting back soon. So the piercing then moved on a little bit, and I've been doing a body of work. I call it the wave balls. I've done about 6 or 7, but there's a couple of them here. The first one I did was that one, and I thought I was going to pyro the outside of it. So it's all been done with pyrography, tiny little dots, and then gilt cream over the top. But this one was turned down to 1.5 mil. And when I was burning it with the pyro pen, I flipped it over at the inside, and there was little brown marks all over because it's quite thin. So I had to burn the inside as well. So what I was finding is when I'm turning, I can turn thinner if you're just doing a little band of piercing. So this one's 1.5 mil, whereas if it's turned all the way down, so if it's pierced all the way, you need a little bit more structure in it. So that's a little bit thicker at 2 mil. So you can get away with it thinner if you're just taking a little bit out with the piercing. So that was the pyroed one. And then I moved on, and I wanted to put a little bit of colour in. So I did another one, 1.5 mil, pierced it, marked it all out, pierced it. And then another turner, Gary Lowe, does Cosmic Clouds. He does the Joe Sonia paints. It's absolutely amazing, fantastic with the Joe Sonias. So I borrowed one of his ideas, and I patterned this one with the Joe Sonia paints, the iridescent paints, and some cling film. And I also added a little bit of a detail with the border around the piercing just there. And that was that one. So thank you, Gary. And then I decided to go a little bit opposite. I stuck with the wave, but instead of piercing the wave part, I pierced the whole ball, kept the wave, and started with the pyro and pyroed on the blossom flowers. That's that one. And again, that one I left at 2 mil because there was less strength in it. So they are quite bendy and delicate. So that's the wave series of balls that I've been doing. Sometimes I like to do a little bit of texture, colouring and things like that. So I don't know if you can pick this up very well, this one, but I turned a vase, and I had the little Proxon grinder, didn't know what to use it with. So I left it stationary on the lathe, and I made a textured effect with the Proxon grinder. Sprayed it with the black ebonizing lacquer and used verdigris wax just to pick out all your texture, and then a little bit, just a really delicate bit of gilt cream again to pick out the top of the texture. So I had that sitting on the shelf, and I had to do a demonstration at work, and I thought, what will I do? So I went and did a demonstration, and I turned the second one a little bit smaller. So when I turned the second one, I had the first one there as an example, and one of the guys at work, he said, wouldn't that be good if you turned a tiny one, like an egg cup one? So I turned the egg cup one after the demo, and now we've got a little set trio of vases. So again, sycamore, my favourite wood is sycamore because it's strong, it's light, it takes texture, it takes piercing really, really well. When I mentioned I did the AWGB certificate with Andrew, and we had to do goblets. So I did it had to be a decorative goblet. So I did a 3-part goblet with African blackwood, and I think that was a bit of elm, if I remember rightly. I had an absolute nightmare with it, and the parts nearly went in the bin. So we went to Andrew's the next day, and we ended up, it was the base that I couldn't do properly, and we ended up using double-sided sticky tape in a little jam chuck to finish the base off. So I kept practicing, and now I use the 3-part goblets in demonstrations that I do. It is one of my demo pieces, so that was a disaster that turned into a demo piece. I do the little box that I started doing, and I've done a few of them, but I haven't glued the finials in. Pat had one in his gallery when he did his walk round a few days ago, and I started using the Keith Burns style finial. So this one, again, it's sycamore, favourite wood, and just plain pay road flowers on it there. Pay road right on the bottom all the way around, with a Keith Burns finial. So then I moved on, and again, the blossom flowers. I love the blossom flowers. It's my favourite tree. So I did a one there with the blossom flowers, top, bottom, and on the inside there. But I thought I would change the finial up, and I made it, oh, if I can get it to stay in there, a little different one there, which I'm not sure about. So I haven't glued any of my finials in because I keep swapping them round. I can't decide which ones I like. So one day I will actually decide on a nice finial, and I will glue all the finials in to the boxes. So the last piece I've got, I have been working on the last week. It's another pierced one, and it's a similar shape piercing to the ones I've been doing. But I've been looking at a guy, an Australian turner called Neil Turner, on Facebook, on Wow, on things like that, and absolutely love his work. So this one I decided to, I've pierced it with the Fordham, but then I've used some burrs, and I've actually, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but I've taken it down to a point, so it's a little bit more natural. It's more organic than the flat piercing. It's a little bit of shape into it. So that's the one I've been working on recently, and got ideas of doing vases and things like that with it. But yeah, that's what's been in my head recently. So, and that is pretty much me. Any questions, anyone?
Where do you hide your rubbish, Helen?
I do normally have a bin bag in the corner there, but it's in the bin, and I haven't got a fresh one out. So yeah, I do normally actually have rubbish in the bin bag there.
Helen, you seem to be saying that these pieces are all like your second or third or whatever. So it implies that you've only produced work for yourself. Do you produce work for sale, or is it just for your own enjoyment?
I don't really sell my work. I just, it's wood turning. I started turning and I fell in love with it, and it's like kind of taken over my life. Like I said, I now work for Axminster because of the wood turning. I've done a few bits for Wood Symphony Gallery, but it was more for just for the love of it, the enjoyment of it. I don't really sell any work.
Helen?
Yeah.
Have you gone through the bottom of many bowls, turning them that thin?
Honestly, I've never went through the bottom of a bowl, touch wood, yet. I have blew a few up, they've exploded, but I haven't gone through the bottom yet.
And is it dry timber that you're using?
Yeah, always. I always use dry for thin turning.
Okay. Very nice.
Thank you.
Hi, Helen. Katie. Oh,
hello.
Sorry. You're right. Nice to hear a local accent. Whereabouts are you based?
I'm in Wallsend, Howden.
Oh, brilliant. I live up in Scotland now, but I'm from Newcastle, so
Oh, fantastic.
might have to look you up next time I'm down home.
Yeah, I'm right next to the Axminster store. I'm 3.5 minutes away from the Axminster store in North Shields.
Oh, ideal.
Send us a friends request on Facebook.
I will. Thank you so much. I'm having to shoot off now, but I've really enjoyed seeing everyone's the workshops and everything's given me some food for thought, definitely.
Like Pat said earlier, we do it twice a week, so we've got a few people lined up, so pop back in.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
The rest of the day.
Bye.
Ta-da.
How many hours a week do you spend turning, Helen?
It depends. I work 5 days a week. Because I work in Axminster now, I work my latest shift's 5:30, so I'm probably in the workshop about 4 or 5 nights a week. On my days off, I have 2 days off a week, so I normally have one of them as a play day in the workshop, and the other one I do the normal housework jobs that I need to do.
Yeah. Oh, you get quite a bit of time in the workshop then.
Yeah. Well, they saw the workshops at the bottom of my garden, so even sometimes if I can't sleep, I'll be out here with the Fordham out piercing or payroing or something like that.
I know.
For the very thin work, obviously you said you started with a Dremel, you've moved to the Fordham. Have you played with the micromotors and dental type things, or does the Fordham work best for you?
I started with the Dremel, and I had the mind to move up. And at Harrogate last year, I spoke to a few different people. I spoke to John Woods, Margaret Garrod uses the NSK, and Richard Kennedy used the Fordham. So I went to speak to all three of them. Richard let us use his Fordham, and it was exactly what I had in my mind, what I was thinking. I have got dreams of owning an NSK, but I like the Fordham. I like the fact that when you're piercing, I don't know the technical parts of it, but I don't get any burning around the outside of the holes there. And a lot of times I've seen people using the dental drills and the NSK, and they're getting all the burning. For the work I'm doing, I prefer to have the natural timber rather than that black line, and the Fordham does that for me. So that's why I've gone with that one.
The NSK is rotating about 320,000 times a minute, so that's part of the reason it's burning. Whereas from Bin doing it, once he would cut it out clockwise, he would go back around and anti-clockwise to clean up. Now, he was really good at it because anyone else would probably skate out off it, but that's why it burns more so than the Fordham you're using, which is only about 50,000 RPM, I think, is it? 44.
I think it's 38, I think.
It should be on the handpiece, yes. 38 or 44, there's a couple of different versions of it. So.
Yeah.
Pat, don't you have to have an air compressor for the other one, the NSK?
For the NSK, you need a compressor that will move 1.5 cubic feet per minute. But you need one that won't be running constantly, that it allows it to cut out and build again. But there's lots of them available, especially with the Swan and the Whisper. What's the other one? There's plenty of the silent ones anyway that's, available for them. Bambi, that's the other one. Yeah. A bit more expensive, but great if it's beside you. If Helen had 100 of this there, you wouldn't need to have your compressor running constantly.
Yeah, it's definitely on the cards, but I do love me Fordham. Absolutely love it.
Hi Helen, it's John for Suffolk.
Hello, John.
I was just looking, I was interested in how neatly you got the Joe Sonia paints up against the piercing that you had on that, the wave band bowl.
Yeah.
And you didn't get any smudging. Was that just masked off, or?
I use the masking tape I use because I wanted the little border. I wanted a 2mm border. I use a tiny little thin craft masking tape. So I masked that off first, and then I just masked the the pierced section off, and there was no bleeding. But it's just a good quality masking tape. Yeah.
So you paint? Sorry, I missed that. It's not your accent, because I worked up at Trudeau for a little while. But did you say you did the painting first?
No, I did the piercing first, and then I masked all the piercing part off, and then did the painting.
Okay, thanks for that. I think it was Gary mentioned at the Chestnut event, but the green frog tape, I think it is really good for masking in terms of the perfect blend of stickiness but not too sticky, and it stops the paint bleeding underneath that you can get with normal masking tape sometimes. I don't know if Gary's still on. Was it frog tape, Gary?
Yeah, it's frog tape, but it only comes in about 3/4 of an inch at the thinnest. That's the stuff.
Come on.
Here's one I prepared earlier.
Yeah. So I use the frog tape if I want something wide. For I've got a couple here. This one's I'm just busy masking out here. So this one's the thin craft masking tape. It comes 1 mil, 2 mil, 4 mil, 6 mil, 8 mil, 10 mil. And they do the standard and the flexible one as well. And it's fantastic for masking out really thin areas. So I use that quite a lot, and it's similar to the frog tape.
I've seen that on Axminster web.
Yeah. Yeah. There's the yellow one's the standard, and then there's a white one which is really flexible. So if you want to do sort of weights and squiggles and stuff, the white one's the bendy one. So I use that a lot.
Helen, they're after somebody, a new presenter on Blue Peter. Why don't you apply?
I think Blue Peter's gone now, hasn't it?
Well, I don't know.
Showing your age there.
Shut up. I think you're fitting good there. Everything prepared, ready.
I try my best.
Come on, she's got another 25 minutes yet. I had to do an hour.
The question
More
for you
questions.
on tools. What tools do you use for the inside of the bowls to get as fine a cut as you possibly can to get that thinness?
I use, when I'm going down at the bottom of the bowl, I use a micro bevel, and I use, hang on. I use Crown Cryo bowl gouge with a fingernail grind on it, and then I've got the Cryo again, fingernail grind on that side, and then flip it over to micro bevel on that side, and it's just really, really fine cuts, and you get a lovely finish on it. But with the thin turning, you have to make sure you go down about an inch at a time, finish it off, and then don't go back to it, and you won't get any vibration. So I do, a lot of people turn their thin stuff with lights, turn the lights off and put a little light in and look through it. I don't use that. I use what David showed earlier, the calipers, the scissor calipers. I use the calipers, and I go down and I turn the inch, and I turn it to the right thickness, and then go down and do the next inch, and I actually go down with the calipers all the way down rather than using the light like other people do.
Helen, they're fantastic calipers, aren't they?
Oh, fab, yeah.
It just shows you how much more you can take off each time. I love mine.
Yeah, me too.
I've a set ordered as well, David. They're available from Andrew Hall if anyone wants them. Have you got a set handy there, Helen?
Hang on.
Because I've seen Andrew using these before. They're really good.
It's there.
Yeah.
So they've got the little dial on them, so you can set it to your 2 mil on the dial, and then when you're going down, you can see if you're thicker than the 2 mil, the little nut goes away from the screw, and when you get down to the 2 mil, the screw's touching the nut, so you can see that yeah, or however many, 2 mil, 3 mil, 5 mil, and see that just lets you go down evenly all the way down.
Be
It
really,
even shows you when you go right the way through, because it ends up on the floor.
Yeah.
be really good for holoforms as well.
Yeah.